So if I understand the sense of your testimony is that this bill has a good intention, as some senators would say, aimed to target the organized crime and the big dealers, but in fact, in fishing, it will get all those addicted persons who happens to be more in need of psychological and medical support than in fact as you said, the punitive aspect that would be put on them that will not produce the result that we're expecting.
It's a very good summarizing statement. Senators are good listeners.
Senator Mercer.
Yes, like Senator Banks, I'm not a permanent member of the committee, so, but I do have a pretty strong opinion. I don't like this legislation. However, Dr. Maté, you said something that puzzled me. I followed you along with your and agree with your summation that about most people having come from abusive backgrounds and neglect. But then you said something, just in your last statement, you said that about a daycare bill in Ontario.
Yeah.
Am I interpreting this incorrectly, or hope I am, that you're saying that daycare centers, licensed daycare centers, could be a contributing factor to later addiction?
Well, I know it seems like a far-fetched statement to make, but here's the point of view from which it comes. And again, it's a book that I've co-written called Hold On to Your Kids, based on the work of a Vancouver psychologist, Gordon Neufeld. And he's pointing out that human beings used to grow up in a network of adult attachments. Mm-hmm. It takes a village to raise a child. So the context of the extended family, the village, the clan, the tribe, that's where human beings historically have always developed. And so that a child has many nurturing adults with whom to connect, uncles and aunts. And if you go to Africa and walk down a village street, everybody calls you uncle, even though you're not blood relatives. Now, in North America, because of economic changes over the last 7 years or so, we've lost that. So not only have we lost a clan, tribe, village, community, and even the extended family. I mean, when a fishing village shuts down in Newfoundland and the parents have to go to the tar sands of Alberta, all of a sudden they've lost the context in which the parenting used to take place. Now, in our society, also, very often two parents have to work to make the living to support the family. So the kids are in daycares. Now, the problem with daycares is not that kids shouldn't be in daycares. If that's what they need to be, that's what they need to be. But American research has shown that if you do stress hormone levels on kids in daycares, see, in Romania, in those terrible orphanages under the communist regime, they did daycare, cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And you measure these kids' cortisol levels. They're extremely high. They're stressed. And what they found in American research is that kids in daycares have higher cortisol levels than those same kids at home. Except in those daycares where there's a decent adult-to-child ratio and there's a good nurturing relationship. In other words, the issue is not whether the kid is in daycare or not. The issue is whether or not there's a nurturing, emotionally available adult present for those kids who's not just there as a supervisor, but also is there as an emotional nurturer. In the absence of an emotionally nurturing adults, the kid's brain automatically connects to the peer group because they have to connect to somebody. Like a duckling has to imprint on somebody. If the mother duck is not there, the duckling will imprint on a horse, which is not designed by nature to bring that duckling up to adulthood, or a human being, or a mechanical moving toy. In the same way, children attach to other kids now, by default. Once they become attached to other kids, they stop developing emotionally because immature creatures can't lead each other to maturity. They're more stressed, and if they're more stressed, they're more likely to use drugs. So the danger of the daycare situation is not that kids shouldn't be in daycares per se, but that we have to make sure that if they're not going to be at home with parents, then they should be in daycares where there's parent substitutes, not just supervisors. So that's the point.
But if a child comes from a loving family, supportive family, where if economic circumstances were different, and that we would have that traditional family environment that you refer to.
Yeah.
That if a child has in that environment, but plus goes to child care, as long as that child care is one with a good ratio of children to teacher, a lower number of children per teacher, then the risk isn't as high.
No, that's correct. In other words, the issue for me is not that kids should be with parents, it's that should be with nurturing adults.
So we're talking about quality of
We're talking
child care
about
as
quality.
opposed to child care.
No, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, we're talking about quality, but I'm concerned.
Okay.
But I'm concerned that in our daycares, that's not sufficiently understood. And so that in our society, you have the phenomena of kids connected to other kids far more than ever before. And if they're not with each other physically, they're texting each other, they're phoning each other, they're emailing each other. In other words, the main influence on our children's development have become other children, which is developmentally a total disaster. And educationally is a total disaster, too.
So in universities and colleges across the country where we teach people early childhood education,
Yeah.
do we teach them this?
No. The importance of attachment, the importance of, I was here addressing a group of, I forget, the Canadian Institute for the Family, which mostly gets their support from people who support the Conservative Party of Canada. And I was asked to address them I think it was earlier this year, in March or February, and I was very pleased to be there because, they get the importance of family. They get the importance of emotional support. I don't agree with their social perspective, but I agree with their emphasis on the importance of emotional nurturance for children. And unfortunately, that perspective is lacking in pedagogy, in the education of teachers, education of daycare workers, education of physicians, or the education of anybody. So that importance for emotional attachment, which is the very basis for child development, is largely ignored in the education of the people that look after kids. It's all about intellectual pedagogy rather than emotional connection.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Mercer. I too have a few questions. First, Mr. Skinner, do you have access to data on the prevalence of addiction in Canada? Because I heard you referring to some numbers, and we will hear from the CCSA they will come up with their numbers on the prevalence of use.
Yes.
But on the prevalence of addiction in Canada, do you have numbers on that? If you don't have it with you, as long as you can provide us with it.
I don't have it with you, and I'm actually using their data about prevalence, which actually includes determinations of problematic use.
Okay.
So they will give you...
With the CCSA numbers?
Yes.
Okay, so we will have access
Okay,
to that.
but if there's anything in addition, I'll be happy to.
Okay, on the, if you look, I don't know if you've read the Section 5, Paragraph 2 of the bill, which refers to drug court.
Yes.
There is an element of in Paragraph 5, at the end of that new section, the bill says that if the offender successfully complete a program, how do you measure that? How do we measure success if the offender has successfully completed the program?
Yeah, how do you measure?
Well, there are ways,
because obviously you understand that we speak for a reason.
Yes.
In the bill, so we have to understand exactly what it means to be successful.
Is there actually a provision in the bill or in the background?
Of course there's
to actually provide the measure, or are you actually...
No.
Okay.
That's why I'm a little bit puzzled by the word successful.
And indeed, there are colleagues of mine who are in kind of program evaluation who have research skills who could actually help you with that. Okay. So I think you're right to say, how do we actually quantify that? What are the objectives that we're going to set that we'll take as the measures that this has been effective? I mean, obviously things like the number of people who reoffended, the number of people who actually enter addiction treatment programs and have, or ultimately you would want a quality of life measure where you actually have the person who was affected will subjectively report that the supports that they received because of this actually improve their perceived quality of life and their functioning, and they're at a healthier level. So they're different. Now, those are more difficult things to achieve, but usually these markers are towards a goal, really, of social reintegration and personal health.